I think this will really help you sleep. So there's something called the Zeigarnik effect, or I think it's called Zeigarnik or Zeigarnik. I'm not too sure the pronunciation. I think it's Zeigarnik, which essentially means that humans tend to remember unfinished tasks, things that we haven't done, much easier, much more rememberable than tasks that are finished. So what this means essentially in the brain is our brain remembers things that we haven't done yet over things that we have done. It's an open and a closed loop system. So this is an open loop system. So say, for example, it's got to the evening and there's things on your mind, at the back of your mind maybe, that you haven't done, but there's a little reminder in your brain. You know that feeling where, hey, you got to do that thing. I can't remember what it is, but I've got to do something. That's kind of the Zeigarnik effect in full swing, because the brain, whether consciously or subconsciously, is remembering, you got to do that thing, you got to do that thing. So let's say, for example, you have got to send that email and your brain is saying, hey, you got to send that email, remember? Make sure you do that, make sure you do that. Or it could be something like a pact that you made with yourself. Let's say it's in the morning, you set your routine up for the day ahead and you're thinking, before bed, I'm going to make sure I do that class. I'm going to make sure I do that mobility or that stretching session. Let's just put that under exercise. So you get to the evening, you get in bed, and then your brain's saying, hey, you didn't do the exercise, you didn't do that thing. And we could give many, many more examples here. So this is essentially the open loop. Let's say your mind's on the pillow, and your brain is saying, hey, there's an open loop here, you didn't do that thing. You didn't send the email, you didn't do the exercise class, you didn't have that hard conversation with that person. You didn't have that hard conversation with your wife, your husband, or your boss. And what happens then? It fires signals to your brain saying, this is, I don't know if you can see that, this is important. And therefore, you must stay awake until we complete these things. And like I said, this could be conscious or subconscious. Sometimes you're lying in bed and maybe it's a little thing that you haven't remembered, but your brain has this weird thing of remembering you didn't do that thing, and it's subconsciously keeping you awake. And you know that feeling, what haven't I done? I know there's something I haven't done. It's like when you leave something behind after a trip, and in the back of your mind you think, I know I've left something, but I don't know what that is. So this is the Zeigarnik effect in full swing. So the open loop system, you haven't done that thing. Remember, the Zeigarnik effect tells us that the brain remembers open loops, so things you haven't done, over closed loops. And what this means is this could be potentially keeping you up, because these things that you haven't completed, however small that they are, send signal to your brain saying, close the loop, close the loop, close the loop. And until you close the loop, we're still going to be firing up here. And that's obviously going to tell the signal to sleep to halt that process and to complete these tasks. So what do? We've got to close the loop. This email, you're thinking, okay, 30 minutes before bed, let me get this done. Let me tick that off, because that will be a closed loop now. Now we've gone from open loop, signals to the brain, this is important, stay awake, to, nope, task complete, it's not going to send those signals to the brain anymore. It's the exercise. An hour before bed, you're thinking, and you know, okay, I made a pact with myself today. If my head is on the pillow this evening and I don't do it, I know that's going to be an open loop system, and I know the signals are going to send to my brain, telling my brain, this is important, do it, and don't sleep until you do it. So we're closing that loop. We're saying, okay, tick that task off, once again, to not send signals to your brain, to stay awake to complete the task. Hopefully that all makes sense. So we have an open loop, which could be potentially keeping you up, and a closed loop, which could be the solution to a sleep. It helps me every day. At the end of the day, it's getting late here, 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'll think, okay, what tasks haven't I finished? Because when my head is on the pillow, I don't want to be thinking about anything. I just want to be, I want to be knocking off. So I make sure I have that list, all of the things that I plan that day, complete, to the best of my ability. Because some you can't fully close. There might be a half loop, but it's you doing your best to close the loop. It could be just sending an email saying, hey, I acknowledge what you said today. I'm going to get back to you tomorrow. That's closing the loop. Maybe you haven't completed the task of the whole email, but you've put effort into closing the loop to some degree. Maybe it's the exercise. Maybe you're completely shattered. It doesn't have to be the hour version. Why don't you just do a 5-minute version? Again, you're doing your best to close the loop. It's still an action, if that makes sense. It doesn't have to be. My point is, sometimes the loop can't be completely closed, but you can do your best to at least partially close it. So I hope that helps. Just have a think about what that might look like to you. Close the loop, finish the tasks, and this should be a way of allowing your brain to ultimately, let me get a blue for this, switch off. Ultimately allowing your brain to rest, which helps you sleep. Close the loop, and it will allow your brain to rest, and hopefully help with that sleep latency, that ability to fall asleep quicker. So go ahead and close the loop, and I hope that was helpful today.